Why, hello there. I'm Sin. We're in the Book Nook, and today we're going to talk about my past, present, and future of books, what I've finished, what I'm in the middle of, and what we're going to get into. All right, so first up, I recently finished the book The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and this is a dark fantasy. Honestly, could also categorize it as a horror book. It's very brutal and gory. There is a lot of gore in this one. I really enjoyed my time in the pages. There will be a standalone review coming for this one, so keep an eye out for that if you want some more detailed info, but loosely, there's a lot of religious aspects to it. This brother Diaz is called to the Holy City by the Pope, and the Pope in this is like a child Pope who she is 10 years old. He ends up speaking with Cardinal Ziska, who kind of really pulls a lot of the strings and machinations behind the scenes, and she has an ulterior motive behind what she's doing, but she wants Brother Diaz to lead this team of people to take this girl, Alex, who is the long-lost heir of this woman who was on the serpent throne, and just get Alex to the city to take her rightful place on this throne. And there are also 4 family members of her who are brothers who are also vying for the throne, but Alex has first claim to the throne, so they're probably going to try to murder her along the way, and they will have their devils with them. However, Alex and Brother Diaz will also have their devils with them, provided by the Church of Holy Expediency, which is the 13th chapel that no one really seems to know about that exists. Must be on a need-to-know basis. So they joined up with a group of very interesting characters. There is Viga the werewolf, Baron Ricard the vampire, Baptiste, who seems to be a pirate, Jacob of Thorn of the Knights Templar, there's a necromancer named Balthazar, and there's an elf named Sunny, and it's a very interesting character cavalcade that goes forth. I was like, these are characters from Skyrim. So they set out to take her and try to get her to the throne to take her place and unite the churches that are basically warring against each other in the kingdoms and all that stuff. The writing was fantastic. I really liked the characters. They grow along the way. I hated Brother Diaz in the beginning. I thought he was a douche. But he learns and he grows and he becomes a much better version of himself than he originally was when he was just a doofus. So, really liked that one. Dark, deranged, brutal, great book. So right now, I'm in the middle of the book Flashlight by Susan Choi, and this was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, and I started reading it, and in the beginning, it was a bit slow moving. So it's about, there was this girl, Louisa. Her and her father one night, they went on a walk by the breakwater. Her father had a flashlight. He cannot swim. She wakes up on the beach. She's drenched. Her father is missing. No one knows what happened to him. They think that he probably drowned or died or whatever. And then you get into the book, and it says that when Louisa was first found, she said that her father was kidnapped. Later on, I don't know how much longer this is, when she goes to see like a child psychologist, she's like, I never said that. No, my mother's making that up. She has a lot of issues with her mother. There's a whole mother-daughter dynamic there. And as a child of an American and then a Korean man, the father who went missing was Korean, you get into a lot of the backstory. They were living in the US, then they went and lived in Japan for a year, and then how the mother handled being in Japan, and just the dynamic between them, and the daughter kind of feeling like she didn't fit quite in one place or another, but then at some point becoming like, when she was in Japan, being embarrassed to be with her mother because then she stood out more, and just the whole psychological effects of that, and the dynamic with the family. And also, Anne also had a prior son with another man that her husband doesn't seem to know about because she never mentioned that. And I don't know if he ever found out before he went missing. I don't know. I'm not that far in the book. There's a whole lot of stuff going on too. And the husband, he had grown up in Japan when there was the war going on in the 1940s. And he didn't even know he was Korean for the first part of his life until the war ended, and then they were allowed to tell him, because up until that point, he thought he was Japanese. So there's a lot of emotional and just depth and layers to this book. And so far, I think I'm maybe 150 pages in. It's truly fantastic so far. I'm really enjoying it. Sometimes I don't mesh well with the Booker Prize books. This one, once I got into it, I'm finding it really hard to put down. So I'm very excited to get more into that. the weaving of the story and the storylines as you kind of flip back and forth in your timelines to kind of learn the history of how the characters grew up and what they went through and the things that they carry with them. It's truly fantastic so far. So looking forward to see where that goes. Next up, some books that I will be getting into. One of which I'm very excited about reading is one of my favorite authors of cozy horror. I don't know. I think she's cozy horror. She writes very addictive, thrillery type books. They're never too like gross and deranged. Like they're more on the lighter side for the most part. I know there's an exception to every rule. So we got How Bad Things Can Get by Darcy Coates. This is the newest one that I know of. It was supposed to be the party of the century. Miles of idyllic white sand beaches, lush jungle foliage, and a dark legend nobody dreamed might be all too true. When an online influencer and several hundred of his most loyal fans land on Prosperity Island, the plan is simple. 5 days of elaborate games, drinking, and suntan fun. A week in paradise should have been a welcome respite. The only survivor of an infamous cult, Ruth. She wants nothing more than to keep her head down and not draw attention. She spent decades outrunning her blood-soaked childhood, and her identity is a closely held secret. But then the true history of the island is revealed, along with its sinister connection to Ruth's past. As guests go missing and games turn deadly, Ruth and the rest of the attendees are forced to question whether they've really been invited to paradise or whether something much darker and far bloodier is waiting for them just beyond the bonfire's light. Now, what I want to know, this Ruth person, like, if you want to keep a low profile, why would you go on this trip? Like, did she really want to go on an influencer trip? You're trying to keep a low profile and you're like, hey, let's go with this influencer island trip. That should be fun. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So, How Bad Things Can Get by Darcy Coates. Looking forward to this one. All right, so next up, we have a book by an author. I've read one other book by her. That is Elma Katsu. I read The Fervor, which was fantastic. So I saw her latest book at the library, Fiend, and I picked it up. It's not super crazy long. It's probably in the, well, let's see. It's about 240-ish pages. The Berisha family runs one of the largest import-export companies in the world. And they've always been lucky. The rivals suffer strokes, inconvenient buildings catch fire, earthquakes swallow up whole manufacturing plants, destroying harmful evidence. Things always seem to work out for the Berishas. They're blessed. At least, that is what Zeph, the patriarch, has always told his 3 children. And each of them knows their place in the family. Darden, as the only male heir, must prepare to take over as keeper of the Berisha secrets. Maris's most powerful contribution, much to her dismay, will be to marry strategically. And Nora's job, as the youngest, is just to stay out of the way. But when things stop going as planned, and the family blessing starts to look more like a curse, the Berishas begin to splinter, each of them hatching their own secret scheme. They didn't get to be one of the richest families in the world without spilling a bit of blood. But this time, it might be their own. Dun dun dun! All right. And curious to see how this one goes. As for now, I am most excited to get back into the book Flashlight. Have you read any of the books shortlisted for the Booker Prize? I'm just curious how some of the other ones were. I know that the book Flesh won, and I had started reading that one and I ended up DNFing it because it just wasn't for me. And so I always have a weird, like I said, weird relationship with like Booker Prize ones. Either I really seem to like them or I'm just kind of either like, oh, this just isn't for me, or it's kind of not holding my attention, or a subject matter that is something I'm not interested in. So just curious. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.